Hi guys, thanks for coming to See the Beat. So today we're going to be doing a red eyeshadow look, but we're also going to be going over some tips and tricks on how to make the makeup application last all day when you're oily or your client is oily. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is go in with some powder on the eyebrows to make sure that there's no oil when we go in and apply the product. And we're just going to go in and fill in the brows. And something you can do when you're filling in your client's brows or your own brows is to lift up where the arch is so that you can really see and get your product into the arch while you're working. Now we're really going to focus on a lot of techniques and the steps in which you should apply the products when we get to the base. You definitely don't have to go out and buy every single product that I use, and the products will be listed in the description box. You can use what you have. It's going to be more so employing the technique to ensure that the makeup will last all day. So next we're going to go in and carve out her brows. This is a MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. Absolutely my favorite concealer to use. If you are able to purchase this, I know it is a little bit expensive. I believe it's $25 for a tube. If you're able to get it, I would definitely suggest it, especially if you are a beginner, because it is very mistake proof. And what I mean by that is it's very thick, so it's not watery or runny. So I find that it's much easier to control the product, as well as it's very easy to blend out. It doesn't crease, so it's very mistake proof if you're someone who takes a bit longer to complete the brows. You don't have to worry about the product beginning to settle and crease. And as you can see, as I'm carving out her brows, I'm relying on the straight edge of the tool. If you have the proper tool, you don't have to worry so much about your hand being able to draw a straight line. The straightness of the tool is going to accomplish that for you. So just make sure that you have a very flat and straight tool when you're carving out the brows. Okay, so for her eyes, I just went in and applied a bit of the P.Louise Base, and I'm gonna go ahead and blend that out, and that's gonna be my base for the eyeshadow. Okay, so for her eyes, I'm just gonna go into her crease with the shade Credit. It is from the collab Aina did with Anastasia Beverly Hills. And we're just going to follow the natural shape of her eye. And she has hooded eyes, basically meaning when she opens her eyes, a lot of her eyelid space is concealed when she naturally opens her eyes. So I am going to bring the eyeshadow a little bit above her natural crease so that we still see all of the color when she opens her eyes fully. Okay, so next I'm going to go in with the shade Ginger, just around the edges of the shadow to kind of blow it out so that we don't have that harsh line. So I'm going to begin packing on the shade Like. This is from the Colourpop by Bretman Rock Collection, the palette Lit. And I'm just taking a very flat, dense brush to pack on that shade. And right now I'm just really dipping and patting. That's going to allow you to build up the pigment very quickly. So once you have that red shade built up to your liking, you're just going to begin blending it out into the brown shade that we put down first. I'm going to skip through this just because I want most of the video to focus on how we're applying the base. So once we have that blended out, I'm also going to take another shade from the Lit palette. It's the shade Mercy. It's a red shimmer shade. I'm just going to pack that on her lid as well. Same thing, we're going to pack it on both sides and then blend it out. So next we're going to go in and wipe off any fallout with a witch hazel wipe. And then we're going to go in with a mixture of the First Aid Beauty Ultra Repair Cream, that's a moisturizer, and we're going to mix that with the NYX Angel Veil Primer. And we're just going to go ahead and rub that in. Don't be afraid to be hands-on with your clients. Just make sure that you're always washing and sanitizing your hands prior to touching your client. And then we're just going to go ahead and blend that out. Even though your client is oily or you may be oily, you still want to make sure you're applying moisturizer, because that can actually cause the skin to overproduce moisture if it's not getting any. And then we're going to go in and set the primer with a very light layer of loose setting powder. This is going to be an extra barrier to ensure that there is no oil. And then just go ahead and make sure you thoroughly blend that out. And then I'm going to spray some setting spray. Now I'm going to go in and color correct. She does have some hyperpigmentation. I went over this in my last video, so check that out if you want a little bit more info on how to color correct. And so then we're just going to go in with her foundation. Now this client likes a dewy look to her makeup, although she does overproduce oil, and so it can get pretty messy. Now you can still achieve a dewy look on your clients even though they're oily without it getting out of control. So the way I do that is I go in with all the mattifying primers. We're gonna set with powder, we're gonna set with setting spray, and the only thing dewy that I use is the foundation. And you'll see that this foundation is a little dewy. If your client prefers that super dry, super matte look, just go in with a matte foundation. And as always, make sure you are tapping that product in and not swiping it. And also just make sure you are taking your time when you blend out the foundation. You really want to make sure that it melts into the products underneath and that it meshes well with the skin. That's also going to help with cutting down on oil seeping through. You don't want the foundation just sitting on top of the skin, so really take your time with blending it out. Okay, so still going in with a matte Pro Longwear Concealer. I'm just going to conceal her under eye, her forehead, bridge of her nose, and her chin. I also like to take this time to go in and clean up the edges of the eyeshadow to give it more of a shape. We're doing no eyeliner with this look. If you were doing eyeliner, you want to make sure that it's applied before this step so that you can actually clean up the edges of the eyeliner. And of course, we're going to go ahead and blend that out with patting motions. I know some people like to blend out concealer with a sponge or like a beauty blender. I actually prefer using a very small dense brush. I think it lets me really get into the corners and up under the eye easier than a sponge, and that's just for me. So I'm using one of the Real Techniques concealer brushes. So then I'm gonna set everywhere that we just applied concealer with one of the Fenty Beauty setting powders. I believe this is in the shade Honey, I wanna say. I will have the shade in the description box. I love this powder. So I don't do any baking. I'm just gonna go in and set it. And then I take the same brush we blended out the foundation with and just go over those areas. Next, we're going to add some contour to her cheekbones, her forehead. I'm also going to contour her nose as well and blend that out. When you're blending out the contour, just make sure you're moving the product up. You don't want to really blend downwards. You can make it look like your client has a beard if you drag the product too far close to their mouth. And also you want to uplift the jaw structure, so just make sure you're blending upwards. Okay, so then we're going to go in and set everywhere that we contoured with a powder. Setting is really important when you have an oily client. You always want to make sure any cream product is going to be set with some type of powder over top. So that's what we're doing here, just going in everywhere we contoured. Next, we're going to apply some blush. Okay, so a step that I do for my oily clients is I actually do set their face all over with powder. I know that typically we'll just set the under eye or like anywhere that we highlight with powder, and then we will spray the face with a setting spray. But actually for my oily clients, I do go over with a very light layer of powder all over the entire face. I'm just going to add some gold to her inner corner. And then some highlighter as well. And I believe this highlighter is from the It's My Ray Ray collab with BH Cosmetics, the first palette she did with them. So I hope the tips that I provided will help you with your makeup application. But yeah, this is pretty much the finished look. We do go in and apply some eyelashes as well as some gloss and lip liner. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in my next video.